So do we have a main villain now? Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 12 of Gnosia. So we are back, and last time we got some big lore. We found out not only a lot more about SQ, that she is a clone, and that she's had a lot of like self-hatred and just imposter syndrome that she hides under this mask of like, very high energy, peppy attitude. But we also found out that the original Maman, I believe that was the name, or it was something like that. I think it was Maman. Created her and the other clones in order to try and live forever. And that apparently, I guess, in good timelines, in good world lines, where SQ is not a Gnosia, she's, or at least the timeline we just saw, she was a failed, integration attempt. Maman tried to integrate her consciousness into the body that would become SQ, and it failed. It like fell through, and I guess through that, Maman just... I mean, we know SQ mentioned that she has like some of Maman's memories and some like little like bits of information, but not everything. And so it's kind of like Maman is, I guess, technically dead, but also not. But then at the same time, there's also the timelines where SQ is a Gnosia, and there might even be times where she's not, but like it still succeeded. And we saw like before she was, harassing what's his face? His name is escaping me right now. The one other crew member. I can't think of his name for the life of me at the moment. But she was harassing him and everything, and you saw how freaked out he was. And it made me think, and it definitely implied in my eyes, that the slave master that he had is probably Maman. Which means that things are now connecting in that way, and we're starting to get like big story elements that are going to probably be very important, I would wager. Because then that would presumably connect to Kukrushka, and when she went crazy. Kukrushka, who we also, by the way, found out is a doll, a living doll. And apparently, I guess, when she went crazy,
we're assuming, and I don't know if this is true yet or not. Obviously, don't tell me. But the assumption is that it's Maman somehow having taken control of the doll's body, transferring her consciousness to the doll. Because I believe the kid, I can't remember his name right now, but he said that Kukrushka reminded him of his former slave master, that she had the same look in her eye or whatever. And so it's like that's what's making me, after seeing last episode, make me think that that was probably her then. Because again, the implication is very strong that Maman, because of the interaction between SQ and him, was his slave master. And the implication, like, with that, then would maybe presume that, and with the fact that she can, transfer consciousness to other bodies, it's presumed that she could probably do it to a doll body. So I'm just like, I'm very excited to maybe learn more about that, because we still never actually got like an actual like canonized reason for Kukrushka going crazy like that. But this is like the only thing I can think of that makes sense at this moment. Unless there's just more information we're going to find out, and I'm wrong. I could be wrong. And honestly, I'm just welcoming whatever happens at this point. Um, but yeah, I've been really heavily enjoying this series, and I'm very glad that we're back and we're starting to get like some really big information. Um, because no matter if my theories are right or not, this information's still huge. And so I think at this point we're just going to have to see what happens next. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get into it and see what this episode has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I know in a lot of visual novels, I haven't played a lot of visual novels, just keep that in mind. I've only played like a few, and most of them were, basically dating sims, specifically. But I know there's a lot of visual novels that have like question arcs and answer arcs, where it's like, there will be some parts that set up the questions, set up the mysteries. I think Higurashi is known for this. But then there's like arcs that will answer those questions, answer the mysteries. And I'm wondering if Gnosia does this, because this very much is what these past few episodes have felt like. We had the first 9 episodes or so that were setting up the mysteries, starting to get like the main plot, starting to like get all of the characters revealed. And then these past few episodes have all been developing the characters one by one in ways that they hadn't been before, giving them much, much, much more depth. We're getting to learn their backstories, the reasons they are the way they are in terms of their personalities. Just kind of all of these answers that humanize them in a way that just hadn't been done before. And I'm kind of thinking we're going to do that with every character right now. We're just going to go back to back to back each episode, going to a new character. We had I can't think of his name right now, the Chinibio kid. We had him first, then we had SQ last episode, and now we have Gina. We're getting more with their backstories, finding out more about them, and this one was one where Gina was also a Gnosia and chose to sacrifice herself because she didn't want to lose her humanity and become a liar. Because in the past, her mother lied to her. Apparently, the Shrine Maidens, that What's Her Face is from, apparently they go around cyberizing people. Mind you, it has to be consented to. There is a form for that, apparently. They don't just do it to people like without permission. But you basically you get cyberized, and it seems like at first I was thinking like, okay, is that like a cyborg thing? But no, it seems like it's more like their consciousness is being uploaded to the cloud or some shit, some like Black Mirror shit. Um, Funny enough, I'm actually recording this the same day I recorded my reaction to Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. So it's like I could also make that comparison. By the time this goes up on either Patreon or YouTube, that reaction should have already been up. So, yeah, it's just there's also that comparison that can be made now. But it's like Black Mirror obviously is a big one for that kind of thing. But yeah, it's like their consciousness is almost being uploaded to the cloud. It seems a situation like that. And Gina's mother promised Gina that she would never leave her, that she'd always be there with her, and she wasn't, because she wouldn't be. Because clearly she misunderstood what this process was. And so Gina, like, she kind of seemed to retreat into her shell and become very timid and nervous because of that. Because of what her mother said to her, and it caused her like to have some like very clear social issues. But on top of that, she also has issues with lying. She's very, very, very anti-lying. And that's fair. I can't say I blame her for that, especially with what she went through. But it's so bad to the point where she realizes here, because, you know, Yuri has to come clean about the entire looping thing. She realizes here that, like, she's, like, starting to fall more and more into the trap of being a Gnosia and starting to, like, be more willing to lie, and it scares her. It's literally her worst fear. And so realizing that that's the path she's going to go down, she literally sabotages her and Otame's time as a Gnosia, which I was thinking was going to happen, just in a different way. I mentioned in the reaction I was thinking that, like, when they were talking about during the warp who they were going to attack, I was thinking that, like, the instant Otame turned her back, I was thinking that Gina was going to attack her and, like, take her out instead, which would have been a fascinating play for a number of reasons for what would happen afterwards. But instead, she chose to, like, make the sacrifice play during the deliberation and basically do something that would not only out Otame, but herself, and would make it very clear that she was outing herself. It was a sacrifice play, and I think everybody kind of understood that, even though it only really showed Yuri's reaction to it in the end. I think everybody probably understood the reasoning for it. Because it's like, you would kind of have to. It feels like there would be no other way to view that. But this continues to show something that we've already known, and I've talked about in previous episodes, how Gnosia aren't inherently bad. How the infection is actually causing them to, you know, change. It's causing a change of mental state that makes them more susceptible to, you know, lying to others or attacking others, or, you know, basically falling in line with what they know Gnosia to be. But there's still people underneath that, and the process is a process. They are progressively changing and getting worse as it goes along. So at the beginning, early on, they're still very human. They're still themselves. And we've seen this. Funny enough, like with Chippy being one of the suspects, Chippy was the first one we actually saw this with. Chippy was like the first one who like really showed that a Gnosia can be a genuinely good person still. And it's so important to continue to show, because it drives Yuri to wanting to save everyone, to finding a way to have a happy ending for everyone. But in order to do that, they would have to save those who are Gnosia in whatever the final loop would be. Meaning that they would have to show that empathy for Gnosia. Which is the answer. That's the correct answer. Like, it's like in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. At the very end, when Ed chooses to give up his alchemy, and God tells him that's the correct answer. That is exactly right. Showing empathy and care for the Gnosia is what Yuri needs to do. Because without doing that, they can't save anyone. And by doing that, they'll be able to save everyone. Just need to figure out how. Just need to, figure out the process of doing so. But, I mean, also, we still have to, work out the timeline with gathering all this information, because we can't do it too early, because then it's not going to matter. We're just going to loop again. And we have to pay attention to when the loops are going to presumably end, because if we're not paying attention, then it'll stop and we won't have succeeded. Well, Yuri won't have succeeded, so... This is very fascinating, though, because with getting all these backstories and all this information that's, again, humanizing them, there's a couple characters I am very specifically excited to learn more about. And those are the characters that I hate. Or at least like the least. And the reason I'm excited to learn their backstories and their depths and everything the most, despite not liking them as much as a lot of the others, is very specifically because I don't like them. Because if you can take a character I don't like and turn me around on that completely, that is the sign of a successful story, in my eyes. And it's happened before. I've watched plenty of things where it's like, oh, I don't like this character, or I even hate this character straight up, and then they end up becoming one of my favorite characters. One of my easiest go-tos as an example for this is actually Hell of a Boss. There's a character in Hell of a Boss named Fizzarali who I hated at first. I found him annoying. I found him to be unlikable. I found him to be kind of a piece of shit. Especially because of how he's introduced. And I mean the real Fizzarali, not RoboFizz. To specify that. Because there is a difference there. But then, episodes down the line after that ended up developing and humanizing him in a way that literally turned him into one of my top 3 favorite characters of the series. He went from being a character I hated to one that I adore. Not just love, adore. To a character that I am almost protective over. That's how much I care about him. It's like I kind of get that mama bear energy about him. And that shows how well the series is written and how well the character is written. And I want to feel that towards Jonas. I want to feel that towards Rakio. Towards the Shrine Maiden, whose name I can't think of right now. Those are probably 3 characters I like the least. I don't remember if those were the bottom 3 on my tier list when I made that before I took the break. But just off the very top of my head, those are probably my 3 least favorite. And it's just I want to see them developed in a way that makes me like them. And it's probably not going to happen with all of them. I can pretty much say that I'm probably not going to end up liking every character in this. It's just probably not going to happen. It's reasonable. that you're not going to like every character. If it did if it did end up making me like every character, like that would be massive points for this series because almost no series has ever done that. Like even some of those shows out there that I really, really, really adore, I have characters in them I don't like. I have characters in One Piece I don't like. Legend of Korra, The Owl House, Carol and Tuesday, Link Click. There are characters in all those series I don't like. Whether as characters or just because they're, pieces of shit who you're not supposed to like. But with a series like this, if it makes me like this entire crew, because I'm not expecting to like this Maman character if she does actually end up becoming like more of a full-on character and more of a full-on villain. Though that would be very interesting if it made me like her too. But if it even just makes me like every one of these crew members, that would be such an amazing feat. Because again, I just don't expect to. Even if I can understand their backstories, I don't necessarily expect to like them. There's a difference between understanding a character's backstory and liking them. I mean, this is going to be an interesting example to go with for that. If you've ever played Life is Strange, specifically the first game and the Before the Storm DLC, and I guess the newest one too, but I'm still, as of when I'm recording this, still playing through Life is Strange Reunion. So no spoilers, by the way. But in the first couple games, there's a character named Chloe Price who has a very tragic backstory and history, but is also a really terrible person. And like I can understand why she became the way she did because of all the tragedy she went through. But while it explains her shittiness, it doesn't excuse it. She is still responsible for her own words and actions, and I still think that she sucks. Not like in terms of how she's written or anything. I think she's written really well, actually. I just don't like her. I just think she's terrible. So it's like that's one of those examples of a character who I understand the backstory towards, but don't necessarily forgive, and don't necessarily like. That's really the only way I can put it. And that might be the case with multiple characters we see here. I don't know. We'll just have to keep checking these out and finding out. But I'm loving these development episodes, this answer arc, I guess you could say. Because we're getting like so much depth into them. We're finding out so much more about their character. And I guarantee you I'm not going to remember everything. But I like that we're still learning this stuff, and it's definitely giving an entirely different view on them. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where this ends up going. I'm very curious. There's so many routes I feel this could take, so many points of depth. And I'm just like really enjoying it. And I would just like to know more. I would like to just know a lot more. Also, by the way, I did mention that it's just really been these past few episodes we really started getting this answer arc stuff, but technically that's not true. Because technically we got like a lot more like depth and information with Comet before as well. And I think there was one other that we got a little bit more information on too. I'm just not thinking of who it is off the top of my head. There might even be a couple others that we got like bits of information. I just haven't really considered it like to have like the same impact as these last few, because that's the biggest thing. These last few episodes, 10, 11, and 12 have had such like huge impact. They've been so powerful in the way that they're presented, and maybe that's why they've like stuck out to me a lot more than like the ones before. Though the one with Comet and like ending with like Comet saying she loves Yuri and like talk when they were both Gnosia and everything. That one did that one did have a really like emotional ending too. So that one's probably with like another big one. And it was, I think that was episode 9 actually, because that was the last episode we watched. Because the last two episodes we watched before we took our break were 8 and 9. 8 was the one with Kakrushka going crazy, and then 9 was the one that was like Yuri and Comet as the Gnosia. Oh, but it wasn't just Yuri and Comet, right? It was also wasn't it also the what's his face? I can't remember his name. I haven't been able to remember his name this entire video, this entire recording. The Chinibio kid. I can't remember his name. But like I think it was those three that were the Gnosia. Him, Comet, and Yuri. I think. I believe so. But either way, like the ending with Yuri and Comet was like very emotional. It was definitely giving a lot more depth to Comet that episode. And we had already heard a bit of Comet's like backstory prior to that, so I guess it didn't go into as much in that episode because we already heard some of it. It just like expanded upon it. But yeah, either way, I'm definitely wanting to again know more about like the ones I'm not the biggest fan of, especially with the Shrine Maiden woman. I can't remember her name right now. But like with this little bit in this episode, finding out about like their people traveling on this ship and cyberizing people who consent to it and everything, I want to know more about that. And so I feel like we'll learn more about that when we find out her backstory. But Rockio is definitely a big one because Rockio is one of the ones who have been there since the very beginning, I believe. That they were part of the first group. And considering they've been like this almost point of contention the entire time, I really want to know more about them. Obviously, Setsu, you want to learn more about. And then even like we've heard a little bit about Otome, but I would like to learn even more there if possible. It's just like all of these characters, I want to know as much as possible about. Now that we're getting this kind of information, I just want more and more and more. But I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. And obviously, don't tell me. No spoilers. But that being said, tell me what you thought in the comments of this episode. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.